constant through all the years, Ray, has been baseball. America has rolled by like an army of steamrollers. It's been erased like a blackboard, rebuilt and erased again. But baseball has marked the time. This field, this game, is a part of our past, Ray. It reminds us of all that once was good, and it could be again. Oh, people will come, Ray. People will most definitely come.
Well, we're not so sure about that right now. That was, of course, from Field of Dreams, James Earl Jones. Of course, the nice speech he made about baseball. But Don Henderson, as we come on tonight, I guess the owners have made another proposal against what the players put out over the weekend. They put a counter-proposal out. The players wanted 114 games, and, of course, they wanted guaranteed money if they don't have the playoffs and a bunch of other things. But as we come on live tonight at 7:30 on a Monday night, the owners have, I guess, gone back to the March agreement in a way, but not quite exactly the same way, right?
Well, the way you explained it, definitely not the same way. If they've had now two proposals, one, of course, originally, which never got on the table, was that they were going to, play 80 games, and it was going to be a 50-50 split. Then when they finally did put it on the table last week, it turned out a sliding scale, and still around 80 or 82 games, somewhere in that area, with a number of caveats in there about staying, flying, how they were going to go about doing this. And, of course, the Players Association turned that one down. And now with today's proposal, again, as you indicated, a sliding scale, and only 50 games. Now, it's going to be interesting to see what the players think about that.
Yeah, that just literally came down about an hour ago that the owners have come back and said, okay, well, we had that agreement in March. That was kind of the contention point early on, that the players wanted that agreement to stick as far as what money they'd get, and now the owners have said, okay, we'll do that, but we're going to only let you have a 50-game season, which I guess that brings about the same amount of money they would have gotten what the owners wanted anyway. So I don't know how that works. That's about a third of what they're going to get, third of their salary.
I think we're just going to have to wait and see. Interesting whether Boris will get involved in this, too.
Oh, I'm sure he will.
He's made a lot of comments about it, and, boy, does he have a number of he's an agent for so many of the players to begin with. And so we'll just have to wait and see what his input is going to be. But more importantly, what the players themselves think, because I don't know. It just doesn't make very much sense to me.
Other stories I've seen today, just kind of keeping an eye on it, and a lot of the owners, or at least several, they didn't say exactly how many, but several owners, I guess, have indicated that they'd rather just, can the whole season because they're going to lose more money by playing. Obviously, they're the ones on the hook for the stadium rentals and all that. Cheaper for them, not play at all. Write it off as a loss against whatever their other businesses were, their other fortune is. Actually, in a sense, they'd make more money by doing that.
Well, Schertzer's one of the leading players in terms of negotiating on the committee, and that was one of the things he talked about, giving up the entire season. Nobody wants to do that, obviously, but to me, I've said from the very beginning, with all the caveats we're talking about, how are you going to protect the players? How are you going to protect their families? How are you going to protect the hotel rooms that you're going to put them in? Are they going to go for being isolated in a hotel? Let's just say, hypothetically, Phoenix. Do you want to be in a hotel every night? You don't get a chance to shower and change your clothes at the ballpark. You got to wait till you get home to the hotel. Then you can't go out. You have your food sent in. You have to be tested every single day. I'll tell you, there's so many little things within the contract itself. My personal opinion is, of course, we don't have anything involved in terms of finances, but I just think you ought to scrap the whole season. I just don't think they should play.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think even if you did get a season there with no fans, there's going to be an initial interest, obviously. People watch it on TV, but basically it's like watching a a practice after a while. How many people are really going to watch that every day? What's the intensity level going to be? They're going to have to play 2 or 3 games in a day as far as television is concerned. You'll have a 1 o'clock game, maybe a 4 and a 7, maybe a 10 o'clock game on the West Coast. It's not going to be the normal kind of baseball that everybody's used to. I just wonder the intensity level of these players, and they know they're not getting that much money compared to what they would have gotten. They're getting a lot of money. Are they going to have any interest in doing this? Isn't it cheaper for them just to say, the heck with it, let's just start next February?
Yeah, well, also the other factor is that what the owners, at least it appears to me from the outside looking in and a long way outside, they're trying to get something going so they can create the playoffs. All the money is in the playoffs from television.
Yeah.
So if they play 50 games, if the players agree to play 50 games at this sliding scale, and then they get whatever number of teams they're going to put into what they would consider a World Series. I don't know what kind of World Series it would be, but they would get all the money from television. Even though they lost a great deal of money during the regular season, they would at least get the playoff money, which is the big money for playoffs and the World Series. So they're trying to make it up that way. Again, if I were a player, I wouldn't go for it.
And you talk about everybody saying, the TV money. Well, TV money is based on, now 2 things. Some of it's cable. It's subscriptions. People pay their cable bill. But if it's the network, which Fox owns the playoffs and the World Series, that's over the air for the most part, even though they do show some of the games on the FS1, that's advertising. And advertising is way down because they're not going to get obviously, people haven't been buying as many things the last couple of months, so advertising's way up. So that money's got to be cut in half, don't you think? Even if they do have the playoffs, that money cannot be the same as it was before.
Well, the other thing is with what has happened right now and all the turmoil in the country, throughout the entire country, not just in certain cities. This is in the entire country right now. The president just made a very forceful speech a few minutes ago and talked about some of the things that he's going to have to do, or that he will have to do if things don't correct themselves very quickly. Going to bring a lot of the National Guard in and all that type of thing.
Right.
So there's just so many things going on right now. I do think that the National Hockey League has a chance. They seem to have a legitimate plan on the table. I think that the NBA, we're going to have to wait and see because, again, what cities they're going to play in, what's going to be the restrictions for them as far as hotels and accommodations and travel, if they have travel that they have to be concerned about. But I do think basketball and hockey have a chance. To me, I don't think baseball has a legitimate. They may be able to do this, as you indicated, the latest proposal of 50 games. But is that a legitimate season? Does that create teams to go in the playoffs and go to a World Series, 50 games? I don't think so.
Yeah, how do you have, they're sure they're going to add extra playoff teams anyway, right? 7 per league, wasn't that they were thinking of doing instead of the 6?
I think they'd almost have to include everybody.
Yeah, you'll get a team in there that might have won 15 games, 15 to 35.
Yeah.
Is that? And they might get hot. Let's say they get hot in the playoffs and roll the way. You'll have a losing record team perhaps winning it all. It's just, to me, it's a sham of a season, 50 games. It's not even enough for legitimate statistics, for enough at-bats.
And the other thing is that, my point has always been since the beginning, before the first proposal, when they've had the difficulty. You're talking about billionaires here. You're not talking about people that are making millions or have maybe. I'm not talking about players now. I'm talking about the owners. I mean, they have billions and billions of dollars. Oh, yeah, well, I have $12 billion. I'm going to, buy the New York Mets, for instance, for $1.7 billion. I'm going to buy. They're all billionaires. Are you going to feel sorry for them? I don't. I think, they made the investment. They're getting the money out of it. Then they bought all the property around the ballparks to sell all the parking and everything else. And, to me, I don't feel sorry for them. They don't. Do you think they feel sorry for the guy that has the bar across the street that, can't open up all because of the virus right now? They're not worried about him.
No.
I'm not worried about them.
No, the ancillary people, like you said, is the local businesses surrounding a stadium, the vendors, even though they're kind of independent contractors, they don't work for the team, but they make money off it. But and the front office people. I just read today some of the teams. I think Pittsburgh they've already said, well, we're not going to, contribute to the employee. This is the office employees 401k plan, and a lot of minor leagues obviously are already shutting down their operations altogether. So I think one team today, the Nationals, said they're going to pay their minor leaguers at least through June, but everybody else, I think, has pretty much said released all their players over the weekend. That's at least I believe all of them got released. 1,000 or at least 1,000 minor leaguers got released.
I give Mr. Vanek, right here with the Lightning in Tampa, I give him all the credit in the world. He said in the beginning he would pay his employees as though whether the season went, at all. In other words, if it was canceled altogether, he would still pay
the whole year.
The people all year. He would pay it. But the other thing you have to remember is that when they canceled first of all, they took the draft down to 5 rounds. So if you get drafted in the 6th round, and you sign, the most you can make is $25,000.
Oh, is that right? I didn't know that.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's all you can make. If you're in the 6th round or below, there isn't any 6th round. But if you're signed as a free agent after the draft, the money you can get is $25,000. So, and the top 5 drafted players. I don't know what the limits are there, but so they've cut that. Used to, you had 40 rounds. Everybody got something.
Sure.
And you had a big markup on the guys who were picked in the 6th round or 7th round or 10th round. That's not going to happen anymore. So they saved all that money. The 2 teams have already gotten rid of all their scouts, and all the minor leaguers are gone. They're not going to pay them anything. They're going to keep the taxi squad of 50 to work out at different ballparks in case somebody gets hurt. They're going to raise the roster to, as I understand it, to 30. So you'll have 30 on the roster. You'll have 50 in total. So you have 20 more working as taxi squad members, and that's it. I mean, it's unbelievable. To me, again, I go back to my earlier statement. I hope they bag the whole thing. I hope they do not. I know people love baseball. Everybody loves baseball. And as James Earl Jones said, they'll come back. Well, I don't think they're going to come back too quickly.
No, I think especially with the last couple of weeks of just players and owners arguing over money as opposed to the health situation. If they're arguing over that, okay, you can live with that. But they're arguing over money. People out there don't have any jobs. That just leaves a sour taste no matter what. So you're right.
Well, Snell started that off 2 weeks ago, and he just signed over with Boris.
That was disgraceful. That was horrible.
Yeah, he was not a Boris. It was not his agent until a week ago.
Right.
And he signed on with Boris, although he has a $50 million contract. He goes, I think, 4 more years. I'm almost sure it's 4 years, maybe an option.
I think it's 3 or 4 years, right? Yeah.
Yeah, somewhere in that 4 to 5 year range. So I don't know what Boris can actually do for him, because he already has the contract, but he made it very clear that he didn't want to put his life on the line to fly on airplanes and to stay out and not protect his family. That he'd rather go with no season at all. So go ahead.
No, I was going to say that part. All right, you give him. You can understand that, but the audio that came out. He did something on Twitter or Twitch, whatever it was. He was saying, I want my money. I'm not giving back. I want my full $7 million. That was the disgraceful part. If you didn't feel like playing because of the health thing, fine. Just say, I'm not going to play, but you don't get paid.
Yeah, he said, no matter how many games we played, I want to get paid for the salary that I signed for.
That was bad.
And again, we're going back to the sliding scale and all the other. Now we'll also see whether or not they have that kind of willpower. Do they have the kind of willpower not to take instead of getting I forget what his salary is now, but he'll probably get about $3 million.
I think $7 million is the this year. So yeah, maybe he'll get 2. If they do this,
2 or 3. So do you want to throw $2 million away? I know for everybody, any normal person in the country. $2 million, you'd do anything for $2 million.
$2 million you set for life if you manage it right.
Exactly. If you have any kind of a job and you're making $2 million, you're set for life.
Yeah.
And so it's easy for us to sit on the sidelines and say, "Oh yeah, would I take the $2 million?" Absolutely,
sure,
because you may only get one shot to get the $2 million. So
in that short amount of time, sure. Yeah.
Right. You don't know what's going to happen.
Otherwise, the rest of us have to make $50,000 a year for 40 years.
Yeah. I mean, it's unbelievable, the money that we're talking about. So it's you can't really compare professional athletes with anybody other than movie stars or something like that. That make that kind of money, but would you give up the whole year and just take $2 million? I don't know. You have to have a pretty strong conscience to do that.
You mentioned the minor leagues cutting way down, and I think this was coming out last year at the end of the season. They were talking about a lot of major league teams cutting their minor league franchises just to kind of save expenses, and I think baseball's taking advantage of that. I mean, the owners are right now. All right, well, we'll just get rid of the minor leagues pretty much. Maybe they'll have 2 or 3 teams instead of the 5 or 6 that they have in their system. I think that's what's going to come out. One thing that's going to come out of this, they'll have just maybe 2 or 3 teams, and the rest, I don't know whether. I guess they'll just have independent leagues, right? Like the ones in Long Island.
That was another thing the owners did before they even got into this, arbitration right now about the draft and also about what they're going to do about paying the players and so forth. They already said they were eliminating a great deal of the minor league complex altogether.
Right.
So you're right. I mean, who knows what they're going to actually wind up with. The next few days, I think, are going to be really very, very important because if they go much past, what's today, the 1st of June. So let's say they go to June 15th, somewhere in that area. I mean, if they want to play it all, they want to have, start July 3rd. They got to have at least 3 weeks of, whether you wouldn't really call it spring training, but you'd have to have 3 weeks of preparation. They're going to send a pitcher out there, and he's going to pitch with, haven't worked out for 2 weeks. I don't know.
Yeah, it's the pitchers that take longer. Hitters can probably get ready in a day or two, but the pitchers, you got to work the arm into, at least 5 innings, 6 innings of work. You can't just do that.
What they'd have to start with, they'd probably start with, guys would pitch 3 innings,
right.
Something like that. They wouldn't try to pitch a game, pitch 3 innings, 4 innings. That would be it. But again, what kind of project, what kind of product are you going to put on the field doing this?
And they still haven't said where they're going to play these games. They've thrown out maybe the regular stadiums, but that still has not been determined. So.
No, I don't think I don't think they can play, for instance, New York. I
don't see how.
New York.
No.
New Jersey's going to be tough. I think they'll have a chance. I think the teams that have a chance to play are the National Football League teams. I think they have a legitimate chance because I think by July 15th, they're going to be able to have training camp. I think they're going to be able to start the season the first week of September under their normal schedule. They might have to make some adjustments about the stadiums that they play in because of the cities. They may have to do that. But I think as far as their schedule is concerned, unless something really dramatic happens, and the other thing is, how many people are they going to allow in, let's say, the Giants Stadium, for instance, holds, 70+ thousand.
Yeah.
So what are you going to let in? 30,000 maybe, 25,000.
Right.
That has to be agreed upon, too. So, there's a bumps in the road, but I think the National Football League has a great shot to play.
Yeah, college football may have a little bit tougher time. They start about 3 weeks earlier as far as their games in late August.
Yeah,
so that'll be.
Well, I don't think they'll be in the exhibition games. They'll just be, practice games against each other. That'll be it. And you were asking me earlier today when we chatted about the U.S. Open. There was a big story in the New York Post today about that. That they will not make the final decision until July as to. In fact, I think it said the 15th of July before they made the final decision about whether they're going to hold it. They did say, at least in the Post today, that it will be in New York or it won't be.
Yeah, originally there was some thought of maybe putting it out in Palm Springs where they have that tournament out there in the March. They have,
Billie Jean King Stadium or no.
But they're not going to do that.
Pretty much the way they described it, if I read it correctly. I didn't read the whole story, but you and I had talked about it earlier, and I was doing some things today, obviously, and I didn't have a chance to read it through thoroughly. But I think they said they would make their decision around the 15th of July.
Think about tennis, though. I mean, they could have a tournament. I mean, you're playing tennis, but obviously ticket sales determine most of the prize money and, of course, some sponsorships with it. So they don't want to play that in front of nobody. at all.
No, and that's again that they have to make a decision.
TV doesn't give a lot of money to tennis. Let's be honest.
You got to wait. You got to wait till Cuomo and
Right.
everybody else make a decision about how many people you're going to be allowed to put on the grounds, because the U.S. Open is not just the Billie Jean King facility.
About 30 courts. Yeah,
that's right, and that for a lot of people, they go there to see the whole ambiance, not just the one stadium and the one match. They may want to go to see one key match or something like that, or two key matches, but they want to have the experience of going through the whole program. Well, if you're not allowed to have these people on site, what? I don't know what you do. I mean, again, you're right back to between a rock and a hard place about making a decision.
and the thing is, you got to have some warm-up tournaments or tune-up tournaments leading into a U.S. Open. You can't start the tennis season with a major. I mean, the players aren't going to go for that. So you got to have a few before that to kind of get the players into it.
They were saying in the article today that one of the things is that they'd have to fly. They'd have to get charter planes to fly players from Australia, the players from England and France and so forth. You'd have a charter flight for each one of those countries to come over, and you would not be able to if they are going to get to play. The only people that can use the locker rooms and so forth are the people that are playing that day.
Right.
Nobody else can. So, they have some ideas on the table, but if you're Federer and you're making $100 million a year, are you going to fly over here and you got two young kids now and a wife?
Right.
Are you going to fly over here to play in what would not really be a U.S. Open, would be a sham? I don't think so.
Yeah, we're going to have our buddy Pete the Prophet on hopefully next week, but it's the same with the horse racing. Belmont supposedly is going to open this week, I think Wednesday. And the Belmont Stakes is supposed to be the 20th of June, which is odd because it's obviously out of order, starting first in the Triple Crown. And it's not even going to be a mile and a half. So he's got a lot of things he's ready to say, but it's a similar thing with horse racing. It's not going to be the same. Belmont Stakes doesn't mean the same thing.
I think Belmont's only going to be a mile and an eighth, isn't it?
I thought it was a mile and a 16th, but I could be wrong. Yeah.
I'm not sure. Whatever it is, it's definitely not a mile and a half.
No, they cut it, which is not the Belmont.
I thought it was a mile and an eighth. Okay.
It's just another race. The Belmont is a mile and a half. That's what it's supposed to be. Yeah,
that's absolutely.
Yeah.
And also it's supposed to be the fact that you're taking the horses and running them in that sequence of days.
Right.
So it's how strong the horses are, as well as how well the jockeys ride those horses in that period of time to win the Belmont. Now it's not going to be anything like that because you got the dates all mixed up, you got the tracks all mixed up, you got the Breeders' Cup coming on right after that.
Right, I haven't heard anything about that yet. You're right. Yeah, the Breeders' Cup.
No, you're going to run your horse in the Preakness, for instance. If the Preakness is in the first part of October, what are you going to do about running in the Breeders' Cup?
Right. That's right. The Derby's supposed to be September 5th, Labor Day weekend, and then the Preakness in October, right?
Right. It's all messed up.
Yeah. Well, we'll get into that with Pete next time we have him on. But we talked about hockey for a little bit. Let's bring that up. You mentioned a 24-team tournament is apparently pretty much locked in as what they want to do. They still haven't determined the cities yet. They've said they're going to do two. Las Vegas seems to be one of them. And I've heard Columbus. I've heard Toronto. I've heard a couple other cities as being in the Eastern time zone. Tampa, not one of them, interestingly enough. I would think Florida might be. But that's the plan right now for hockey. I don't know if it's going to happen. Nothing has been talked about since they put that out about a week ago.
Well, they would like to have one in Toronto, but there's complications there because
it's like New York.
Not only New York, but you're going across the border. Now you got
2-week quarantine in Canada. I mean, they're
that's
very
exactly
strict.
Right.
Yeah.
So and of course, this is going to hold true for everything. You're going to take a team from the United States. You're going to take them to Canada. You got to go through a quarantine, and then you're going to play. You can't do that.
No.
So I think they're going to have to play all the games in the United States. I don't think they're going to be able to play in Canada as much as they do. Toronto wants it very badly. They wanted to have it there. I just don't see how they can arrange to do it.
Yeah, you'd have to have all the American teams go up there and just stay for 2 weeks before you start the thing, and just stay there.
I just don't. And you got to go through all the temperature checks. You got to go through whatever number of days you're going to do that. You're going across the border. Is it Canadian? Are they going to make a special dispensation for you to bring the hockey players into play? I mean, there are a lot of complications in all these things, but I do think that the National Hockey League has I think they came through with the best plan right away.
Right.
And, in fact, the general manager of the Islanders, who I really have a great deal of respect for when he was with Jersey, and then, of course, I saw when they were up in Toronto, and Lou was very much in favor of it. He thought they did a great job of preparation, of laying it out for everybody, and he was very outspoken about how well he thought it was conceived between the owners, the players, and everybody. And again, had little question about whether they can actually use the city in Toronto or a city in Canada like Toronto, but he's very much in favor of the way they laid it out.
Also wondered, too, I know they played hockey in Vegas last time when they went to the finals a couple of years ago into early June and the heat and all that. I just wonder, you're playing all these games in the summertime. I mean, the ice does affect the ice. I don't care how good the refrigeration is. You're playing in the middle of summer now. Very difficult. I wonder how that's going to come about.
Same thing with baseball. You're going to play in Arizona at 105, 110 degrees.
Baseball in the daytime. How are you going to do that? Right.
I think you're going to have to play in dome stadiums for the most part. I think you got to go to, I don't know whether I know that Florida obviously has put their oar in the water. DeSantis has put his oar in the water, saying, he's going to open up everything in Florida. But where are you going to play in Florida except the Astrodome? There's no place else to. The new stadium in Miami,
right?
You could go there. But again, you're talking about 100-degree weather, rain all the time down here, so you can't go to minor league training camps, which they talked about. They were talking about going to the new Braves training camp down here,
right?
Because it was very well received by everybody. Well, what are you going to do? You get rain every day, and you're going to play in 95-degree weather outside? I don't think so.
All of a sudden, the Trop's going to look good to a lot of people.
You're right. The Trop's going to become one of the major facilities of Major League
They rip
Baseball.
that place. Every network that covers baseball rips that place, maybe somewhat deservedly so. I don't think so. I think inside it's not a bad stadium, but that could be the place that comes through. You don't know.
Well, I think it's going to be one of them. I don't think there's any question. Because there's only so many dome stadiums. And California, of course, is a place where you can play Dodger Stadium.
Right.
That's not a dome, but
weather should be pretty good even into November there.
That's right. Yeah. The weather out there is really terrific in that time of year. So, but I would know they can't go to San Francisco with all the trouble they're having in San Francisco right now. Yep. Holy smokes! I wouldn't want to go up there.
Big mess.
Even though they have not a brand new stadium, but a stadium that's 8 years old, 7 years old. And but who wants to go to San Francisco in this day and age with all the problems they have there?
Yeah.
So it's going to be difficult. I mean, there's a lot to me. Even if the players tomorrow say we'll go along with the sliding scale, they got a lot more things to get through other than just the sliding scale.
Oh, sure.
So we'll see what happens.
And getting to the television schedule. All right. Well, everybody says, well, you want the TV money. So how's that going to work? You're going to have to play multiple games, like we said, to fit them all in. They're going to have to play a lot of doubleheaders. How are the announcers going to work? Are they going to be doing it remotely? I mean, how's that going to work?
Well, they say basketball. They are going to do. They're going to have. They're going to have anybody on the scene, like pre-game shows, post-game shows. None of that's going to be out of the stadium.
Right.
And everything else is going to be, for instance, basketball. Even the play-by-play men, maybe sitting in TNT, broadcasting the games.
Yeah, watch it on TV, right? Yeah.
Yeah,
right.
Watch it on TV and broadcast. What kind of a setup is that? I mean, I don't care that much about the broadcasters anyway, but
no.
I just don't think it's going to fly. I watch a lot of games, but I don't necessarily turn it on because it's A, B, or C broadcaster is doing the game. I turn it on because it's the game I want to see.
I think you can do football. I mean, I have actually done games. We did a game a few years ago, a high school game that was in Miami. My partner Ed and I did the game watching it on TV because the station didn't want to pay us to go down there. So you're able to do that because the play is in front of you. But it'd be tough to do hockey that way. It'd be tough to do baseball that way, just watching it on TV.
And the other thing is that football, you really don't so much. They talk about it all the time. They spend more time wasting time with people in crazy costumes on and jumping up and down in the stands, and than they do watching the game. But so that may be a plus. If they don't have anybody there, maybe whoever the directors are going to concentrate on the game and forget about giving us shots of people in the stands that we don't care about to begin with.
Well, we'll wrap it up. We wanted to talk a little bit about some vintage hockey. We were trying to get our buddy Phil Esposito on. We had a little trouble, or having a little trouble getting a hold of him. Hopefully we'll get it down the road. But this was actually the 50th anniversary about a week ago of the great Bobby Orr diving goal, where the Bruins won their first cup in a long time against the St. Louis Blues. And we wanted, of course, Espo was on that team, and that was one of the great goals of all time. And then also this past week was the 45th anniversary of the Flyers winning their second Stanley Cup. Don, I guess you were there, right, when they beat Buffalo?
I'll tell you, it was amazing. It really was. I think, to be honest with you, the series prior to that against Boston was even more amazing than winning the Stanley Cup, although, and Bernie Perron was, I mean, even to this day, without Bernie Perron, they wouldn't have won
no
Stanley
way.
Cups.
No.
I mean, they had great teams, and they created a whole new system in the National Hockey League as far as physical contact is concerned. And but at the same time, you know, Bernie Perron was really the key to winning the whole thing. Bobby Clark, obviously was one of the great team leaders of all time. But Bernie Perron was the man, boy. You couldn't get the puck past him.
For a 2-year period, the best goaltending I've ever seen. I think. I remember watching that as a kid on TV. I mean, they were beating, of course, my Rangers. And then, of course, they beat the Islanders, too, early on. But, yeah, the best goaltending for a 2-year period of anybody, I think, was Bernie.
I think it's going to be interesting to see because there have been a lot of great goaltenders right up until today. However, the equipment has changed so dramatically.
Right.
I know we were talking to Bobby Taylor, the chief, and he was a backup for Bernie. And we talked about the fact that, I mean, you almost can't see the net with all the equipment they have on now.
Right.
And when Bobby started, you know, they didn't even have masks then. And this is how it's progressed between when he started with the Flyer organization and where we are today. And but I mean, man, oh man, you carry all that equipment out to the goal, you're doing pretty well.
Yeah, you do look at the goaltender leg pads. They look almost minuscule now compared to what these goalies wear.
Oh, absolutely, the whole thing. I mean,
yeah. The glove is very small too. The catching glove very small compared to what they wear today.
Exactly, it's all together. Well, let's face it, all the sports. I mean, the baseball, the glove they use in baseball today is nothing like the glove they used in the 40s,
no.
Or even the 50s when they first came with the trapper and the big mitt for the catchers. And I mean, every sport has changed, but hockey goaltending has really changed because you went from no mask to the dramatic masks that they have today that cover everything. And, of course, the equipment, as we talk about it, in all sports, the equipment is just unbelievable.
And one other thing, isn't this the 40th anniversary of the Sixers and Dr. J, Don, or is it 81 they did that?
83.
Oh, it's 83. Okay, I thought it was 80 or 81. All right, I thought this was the 40th.
83. They won the championship, beat LA in LA. But
well, we'll wait 3 years before we talk about that. Then I thought it was the 40th.
Yeah, gotta wait 3 before we get to the anniversary of the Sixer championship season.
And, of course, the Knicks, I did a little piece on that a couple of weeks ago, the great Willis Reed game with the Knicks winning their first championship, beating the Lakers at the Garden. I don't know, were you covering that game, Don,
no,
in Philly?
I was not. I saw it on television. I did not. It was funny because, again, we go back to Phil. Phil was talking about the fact that in New York, a lot of the playoff games they didn't get to see. They were on. You're a New Yorker. They were on an hour later or something.
They were on tape delay, 11:30 at night.
Yeah. Well, we didn't have that. Where we were.
You were 90 miles away. Yeah, you were able to see it live. Yeah.
Yeah, we saw it live, and but we were very fortunate because I was midway between Philadelphia and New York. So, for instance, in the National Football League, if the Giants were playing the Eagles, if they were playing in New York, I saw it in Philadelphia. If they were playing in Philadelphia, I saw it in New York.
Yeah.
And the same thing with all the other sports. You know, we had the good fortune of being right in the middle, and yet we weren't too close where they would have to black it out. So we would get all the games all the time. We were almost like today. I mean, in the sense of we could see almost all the games, the Phillies, the Eagles, the Flyers, Knicks, the Rangers, everything. We got all the games. And so it just happened to be the locale. We were fortunate enough to live in that area.
It's hard to believe, isn't it, that a championship game, particularly Game 7 of the NBA, was on a tape delay in the home market. It was sold out, obviously. The Knicks sold out every game back then. So it's hard to believe that game was not. You hear Chris Schenkel, too. That game, you can watch it on YouTube. He even says, well, this game will be shown to New Yorkers at 11:30. Can't believe it.
Yep. Times have changed, my boy. Yeah. Times have changed.
But not the Knicks. Knicks are terrible still. That was their glory year, 70 and 73.
Yeah. I don't know if did you get the post yesterday? Did you get the Mad Dog's comments on everything?
Mushnick?
Yeah. No, Mad Dog.
No, I didn't read it. What did he comment on?
They did a 2-page spread with Mad Dog.
Oh, yesterday. I didn't see that. No, I did not see that.
Yeah, very interesting. Asked him a million questions. Obviously, his first question was about, would he and Mike Frances ever get together again? Which is, that every time they have him on, they talk about that. But who he thought were the greatest plays he'd seen. Any number of things. And I'm not a Mad Dog fan. I don't listen to him, to be honest with you, on the radio or on television. But I thought it was interesting that they went through a whole series to see what he had to say, what his comments were. And one of his biggest disappointments is when he worked with Frances on The Fan that, most people didn't think he knew anything about sports. He took great offense to that, saying that always wondered how you could be on that number of years for that amount of time and not know anything about sports.
He does have some malaprops. I listened to him on the way home from work a little bit on the
he
Sirius.
Talked about that too. That's part of his, that's part of his lore is the fact that the malaprops are the things that he did. And but I thought it was.
I'll have to look at it. I did not see that. I only read Mushnick.
The sports section is so bad right now. All they do, they rehash I can't read all.
They're still doing NFL draft stuff, I think.
Not only that, they do. I mean, how many times are you going to talk about the Yankees when George Steinbrenner owned them and the fact that he went to jail and they rebuilt the team without him.
Well, that was the best thing that ever happened to the Yankees, though, when he got banned from the league for those 3 or 4 years.
Yeah, what they did with Jeter and what they did with Mario Rivera, they did trade him. And,
almost traded him.
I mean, who the heck can read that stuff? I mean, maybe some kid that hadn't been around very long, maybe he's 10 years old or something. But, page after page after page. And the only thing they're really being short on now is since there's no gambling, the Post went to about 3 pages of gambling when it was all being played. So now they don't even have that. But as I say, they do have an interesting sports section. They do have some great columnists, and Joel Siegel is now doing a 2-part series.
Sherman. Joel Sherman, you mean?
Yeah, Sherman.
Yeah, Sherman, right.
Not Siegel, Sherman. And so I don't know. I mean, how much old stuff it's okay to watch it one night or something. I don't want to see something happen 50 years ago.
Our friend Brent Musburger's got to be going nuts. He started that whole radio and TV network out in Vegas at the South Point, just about gambling, but they have nothing to talk about. I see him every time I go out there.
What is he doing now? Is it gone black? Or I haven't read anything in the papers about it.
Yeah, it's still on. You can listen to it on satellite radio, and I don't listen much because there's nothing really on there they can talk about. They kind of rehash, I guess. I don't know what they think is going to happen with the playoffs.
Are they doing some races for Australia?
I think they're trying to do some horse racing. They'll give you some horse racing picks, that kind of stuff. Maybe some soccer. I don't know, but yeah, other than that, they're hurting. Yeah.
Well, I don't know.
If you follow gambling and you like to listen to tips and all that, that's what that network does. It's called VSiN. It's right in the South Point Sportsbook, and Musburger does a show there every day, or did. I think he's taking the summer off now. He doesn't need the money, so he can stay home. But
absolutely, absolutely.
But well, that'll wrap it up, I guess. We kind of covered the baseball. We want to have do a show. Last time we were on, we talked with Bill Boggs about his book, so we didn't get a lot of sports in last time.
Well, we got a chance to chat baseball, basketball, hockey, tennis. We got a little bit of everything in, and it'll be interesting to see. As I say, I think hockey approached it in the best manner. Maybe basketball was second. Baseball, I think, is definitely a long way down third. And the tennis is still to be decided. Yeah. So,
right.
And soccer, MLS, I don't know what they're going to do about that, whether they're going to be able to play. They think they are, so we'll see what happens there.
Yeah, I don't think many people care about soccer.
No, they're not waiting at the door for the soccer matches. Come on.
Although that's a game you could play. I mean, it's a little bit of contact, but not that much compared to football or hockey, so you could play that.
Well, not only that, like golf. I mean, there's no difference between playing a golf tournament with nobody there and a golf tournament playing with people there. The golfers are accustomed to coming up through the ranks of playing,
playing in front of nobody.
Or college. They're accustomed to playing with nobody there anyway.
Right.
It's only when you get to the PGA that they fill and the majors that they put 10, 15, 20,000 in there. So it's not going to hurt their game. It didn't hurt Tiger and Mickelson over the weekend. They had the biggest rating I think that golf has had ever. And it was I forget what the number. It was 9.
I didn't hear the number. Was it 9, 10? Is that?
I think it was 9. I think that was the highest number, 9. But I think it averaged around 8 something.
Right.
And but I mean they had 4 big name players. So you get Manning and
Brady, right?
Yeah. But
I thought they were going to start up the regular tour this month, but they already canceled the John Deere tournament, so I don't know what the first tournament's going to be.
Yeah, they're doing the same thing. They're feeling their way through, but I think they've got a great shot of getting at least a number of the majors in before it's all over.
Yeah, but again, a lot of golf money comes from the fans going to it, and some sponsorships, obviously, but TV doesn't pay a lot of rights fees for golf, so they don't get a huge – it's not like football where they're getting the huge TV money that way. I don't think golf generates that.
Your average rating is somewhere between
3 and 4, right?
4.5. Yeah, 3.5 to 4, 4.5 maybe, unless you have if you go to the Masters or something like that, then you jump up.
Yeah, so they're not getting huge rights fees paid by the networks to cover golf tournament, other than the Masters and the Open. That's about it, and the British Open. Yeah. So. Well, anyway,
all right, man, we'll wrap it up. We'll hope to get together next week. We'll have a guest or two.
We'll try and talk a little horse racing next week with our buddy Pete the Prophet if he's available. Not playing hockey somewhere, he plays his deck hockey, but they're probably not doing that either. So,
and maybe by that time we'll know who's playing and who's not. Because if they don't make a decision by this time next week, I think they're really.
I think they're going to chuck the whole thing if they don't get it done by the end of this week. You're right.
Right.
Yeah. Okay, Don Henderson, Doug Miles. Thank you for listening and watching, and we'll see you again soon.